human.
Welcome back. Final hour, 9 to noon. Awaiting the arrival of head coach Kevin O'Connell. Weekly show, of course, X's and O's with head coach Kevin O'Connell. For your Vikings, as they head out for a mid-afternoon affair in Seattle, we're going to get to see that defense. We're going to get to see an 8-3 squad. We get to see former Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold, and a lot to discuss this morning, 9 to noon, right, PA?
Indeed, as the head coach Kevin O'Connell assumes his spot for X's and O's on this Tuesday. Hey, we have a new camera for Vikings.com. So we want to welcome those watching through our new camera to X's and O's at Vikings.com, those listening at FM 100.3 KFAN. And most importantly, we want to welcome the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, to the equation, and begin by wishing you, Leah, Bill, Suzanne, and everybody in your covenant an early happy Thanksgiving. 4-7 makes it look to some like there's not much for which we can be thankful, but really there is. And this collaboration with X's and O's, our friendship, work that I've done at Avail Academy because of your family, I just want to give you publicly give you thanks.
Appreciate that. Happy Thanksgiving to you and obviously everybody at KFAN, Nordo, the gang. We very much appreciate the relationship we have. And PA, you know how I feel about you. You're a very special friend of mine and somebody I really enjoy working with.
I appreciate you. Now, we have if Kevin weren't here, we'd call them the Super Chickens, but we're going to call them the Seattle Seahawks. 3:05 for the Boom, FM 100.3, KFAN Audio Network, pregame at 1 with Muss. And through it all, through these 11 games and 19 offensive line combinations, whatever we're up to, multiple quarterback stuff like that, old Jalen Redmond continues to help. Old Jalen Redmond, just guys like that sticking out when things may not be at their best, you know?
Yeah, and I think you get to this time of year and you start getting some of the documentation for the Pro Bowl and things like that, and you just hope Jalen Redmond gets his due for the type of season he's had. And I know there's a lot of great players at the D-line position in the NFL, but I would argue his tape and his play-to-play impact that he's had for us this year is right up there with a lot of the players, that maybe have a little bit larger name recognition, and obviously Jalen's got a lot of great football out in front of him, so those things will come his way, but can't say enough about what he's meant to our team this year.
And Jalen had, as what Kevin would call it, a blocked shot in the game at Lambeau Field, a pass defensed by a defensive lineman.
Yep.
Those are just, I know you want more. I know everybody wants more, but those are so important, but not really that easy to come by, right?
It depends. It depends the type of the thrower you're going against and, release points. And I will say Jordan Love's done a really nice job over the years he's got a high release point. Every once in a while he'll get leaning backwards a little bit depending on the rush, and he's still got the ability to make some really nice throws over the middle even when that happens. So the block shot is a huge thing, and we're going to continue to preach trying to force those tips and get some of those overthrows where maybe the turnover ops will come our way, because I know it's been they just haven't come like they have in previous years, all those extra possessions, and I know our defense is doing everything in their power to try to force those things.
The punt return debacle that led to Green Bay's second touchdown, it was 10-6 when that happened. So like yesterday at your press conference, this was after the game Sunday. When you say, paraphrasing, the way things currently are constructed, the margin for error is razor thin, that's a high-end example, right? When something like that happens, then they score, make it a 2-score game.
Yeah, and the way we finished the second quarter and Will making the 59-yarder and making that a 10-6 game, a lot of the messaging at halftime was defense is going to get a stop, and then we're going to put together the drive that we need offensively off of the momentum of the end of the first half, the stop the defense is going to get. And then we're going to find a way to put the ball in the end zone and see what this looks like the rest of the way if we're able to do that. And, the offense is gearing up, getting ready to, kind of make the second part of that plan come together. Defense got the stop we needed, got him into a 3rd and long, and got off the field. And then you just have a mistake made, by a rookie that has had such an impact on our team from a return standpoint, both the kick return phase and the punt return phase. And he's trying to do what he believes is the right thing. And I think what we have to, take a look at is just clearing up and cleaning up some of the do a little bit more. I thought he made a nice decision. He's been a great decision maker back there, specifically on those sky punts, knowing when to kind of deke the gunners out and act like he's catching the ball, but we're going to let that thing bounce. And what I told him and our coaching staff was, if they end up downing that ball at the 1 yard line, more power to them. But
right.
What we can't possibly have happen in a game like that, where we kind of went into it knowing, hey, we're gonna run the football, we're gonna keep this thing close. I feel like our defense will play well, maybe make this thing stay where we want it. Force the Packers to expose themselves to a little bit more risk, possibly. They ran the ball a lot. They were playing very similar in a lot of ways throughout the early part of that game as we were. And it was a ball control kind of game. The time of possession was very close throughout the first half.
Yep.
We had no turnovers in the first half, very limited penalties by really either side. And, that one play in a game like that, especially on the road in the NFC North, all of a sudden you're down 11 and it feels a lot greater, of circumstances against you just on one play, one bounce of the ball. But what did we do to avoid the negative in that moment by, playing smart football? And that's what I've got to do a better job of making sure our entire team feels that.
Kevin O'Connell, X's and O's per 9 to noon, and the KFAN Minnesota Vikings audio network, also Vikings.com. Kevin and I will chat after his press conferences pretty much each and every Friday, sometimes recording a pregame interview, sometimes just chatting. And this week we chatted right before you spoke to the Dinah High School football team. And they went out and won the title that night. How did that go? And what'd you guys talk about?
Well, it was the first thing I noticed was it had been a long time since I had been in a high school kind of locker room setting.
Yeah.
They're not washing the football pants and pads as much as they probably should be. My son Caden and I walked in, and it was noticeable.
Really?
Right away. But I told the fellas, I said, this takes me back right here. Just that aura, if you will, that they had.
The stench.
The stench. That's a better word. But it was fun talking to those guys. I mean, they were already kind of suited up and in their uniforms, getting ready to get on the bus to head to US Bank Stadium, and getting a chance to talk to some of the individual players and ask them some questions. And, a funny story, though, I kept on talking to them about 60 minutes. And really in a football game, what separates our game is, really when you look at it, the players that play the most, you're probably only looking at about 10 to 12 minutes of actual activity, between all the play clock going and the huddle calls and all those things. So I kept telling them, if I told you had 10 to 12 minutes for a possibility to hoist a state championship trophy tonight on the field at US Bank Stadium, what would you be willing to do? And it circled back to 60 minutes and 60 minutes. And every time I said that, the fellas on the team would kind of smirk a little bit. And I was like, what am I saying? That, is it some pop culture reference I'm making?
Yeah.
6, 7, whatever it is, and they're laughing at me, or and then I get to the game, had a blast, took my two boys, and wanted to make sure they got to feel such an unbelievable atmosphere, both sides. And I look up at the clock, and there's 12 minutes on the clock to start the game.
And I said, best for 48 minutes.
And I said I might have been asking them for 12 minutes too much, and nobody was willing to tell me in the moment. But congrats to those guys! What a season, and you could feel a lot of special things with that team and their journey throughout the year, and you're just so happy to. This game is such a wonderful game. It can be tough sometimes, like we felt this season, but make no mistake about it, this game has provided so many moments in our lives to all of us, and moments of triumph and moments of overcoming adversity, and that's what we're going to attempt to do right now on a daily, minute-to-minute basis around this building. But anytime you can see a collection of guys go accomplish something like that, it was special.
Well, what if you slip in the pregame talk Saturday night in Seattle? It's like, guys, I need your best 48 minutes here. And then, like, somebody doesn't play hard for 5 minutes. Like, well, you only said you needed 48.
I told our team the story, and everybody, of course, they were laughing at me just like the Edina Hornets were.
The Hornets had a running back in the game named Chase Bjorgard, who I've known his father, Eric, for many years.
Yeah.
General manager, Metropolitan Ford. I've known Chase since he started middle school. And it's just been great to watch him mature and get bigger and stuff like that. My man had 6 touchdowns and 351 total yards. Now, Chase and his dad were in studio on my radio show with Nordo yesterday.
Nice.
Little father-son fun off the state championship and stuff like that. And so talking to Chase, he shared that he also plays baseball and he's a goalie for the Edina High School hockey team. Did you play multiple sports in high school when you were growing up?
I did. I played basketball and football were my main sports, but I always played baseball. In the springtime until.
Were you a pitcher?
I was, and my problem was, unlike football, I threw it right down the middle at a very tempoed pace every single time.
Okay.
So as the hitters started to get better and better, the ball went further and further, and it started to feel a little bit more like batting practice.
Yeah. This is SoCal too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, SoCal high school baseball, Cal State Fullerton for college up there. It's unbelievable.
No question. But yeah, and then you get into the spring football and the year-round aspect of some things, which I am highly, highly for kids. My kids are playing everything that they could possibly imagine. I think they need to play everything. They need to try everything.
Why is that?
I just think every sport has a positive effect in some way on the other, and whether it's change of direction, long speed, hand-eye coordination, depending on if you're a thrower, a baseball versus a football versus anything else, and I think the different dynamics of 5-man sports. There's 9 guys on the field on baseball, 11 in the huddle in football, and there's just different dynamics of team building and teamwork, and then the individual aspect of growth and development from a standpoint of, I think we all forget at times, as we start to see high school kids making NIL money, and we are finding a way to turn a lot of this into a business, when really the most important thing is learning about yourself and the passion you have to do something for reasons greater than yourself in many ways is what makes sports so special and helps you grow as a human being outside, much further outside the lines than just playing those games. And I told the guys the other day, I still talk to some of my high school football teammates, on, weekly, monthly, whatever it is, because those bonds will last a lifetime.
So the place in Florida, McCarthy went, IMG Academy.
Yep.
A lot of people have gone there, gone to the NFL, stuff like that. Stupid question. Is IMG strictly football?
No, they do. They have everything. They have a lot of.
Okay.
I think they have a lot of Olympic. Athlete.
Well,
types.
I'm not saying it eliminates what you just said, but like Carlsbad, Glendora, Mankato, Topeka, Kansas, Topeka, no matter where, Chicago, no matter where you're growing up, it's like when you get shipped off to something like that, it just has a factory feel to it. I'm not saying it's bad and that you can't have bonds that last forever, but I'm just never going to forget the story J.J. McCarthy told into the season about when he was at IMG Academy and COVID hit.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get home.
Yep.
And depression set in, and it was significant. I mean, I'm not oversharing. He has shared it publicly.
I've talked to him a lot about that time, and it was a difficult time. And I think it was a difficult time for a lot of people, at a lot of levels of not only sports, but school as well, just being disconnected from, some of the best parts of being a young person growing up is those relationships you make in person around people, not necessarily over a computer screen.
In neighborhoods with Billy, Johnny, and that whole thing growing up and stuff, Christy, Susie, Tamika, Antoine. 2020, your best friend was the person in the bioreference van.
That's right.
That you would see on a daily basis. All right. Kevin O'Connell, X's and O's, vast and ever expanding KFAN audio network. Do you or do you guys have anybody who chats with players about time they spend on social media? And I know it's a tough guy game and mental tenacity is required. So let's be tough here, mentally especially. But sometimes that stuff can just overwhelm people, specifically in their low 20s,
Yeah, and I learned going on about 18 years ago from my first coach in the National Football League. Bill Belichick it said in big words right on the door as you walked in, ignore the noise. And the noise has changed over the years. And I was talking a little bit about this with Harrison a few weeks back. Harrison Smith on Friday mornings, him and I get together. And it's kind of old guy talk, all things considered, and just the way the dynamic of it has changed. But I say this as all the time as well. You can't have the popularity of our game, the great fan base that we have here in Minnesota for the Minnesota Vikings, and then not take both sides of it. It's part of it. It's part of what we all signed up for. That passion that our fan base has is something that I always want to feel, and it's not always going to be positive, but part of what we signed up is being able to overcome that. But I think the younger player is a little bit more tied to it than maybe at times they should. So we talk about, is it really worth engaging? Is it really worth finding it in yourself to give responses to things when either you're being personally attacked or some of those things cross the line sometimes. We've had examples of that with some of our players, and that's what I care about more than anything is the times where things cross the line a little bit, and then you really kind of have to hit the reset button a little bit of what's important, and that's all part of it, and that's part of what, like I said, we all have to understand that with how much this game has provided to us both professionally and personally, that the passion fans have for it is what makes our game and our league so special.
Well said. McCarthy with the concussion-related news yesterday. Outside of the concussion, it's with JJ. Do you ever feel he cares so much? He puts too much pressure on himself and even feels he needs to carry the burden of like the entire team? I think what I have felt from him at times is a previous play where maybe he had the possibility of making a play, and for whatever reason, sometimes not anything having to do with his doing on the play's not made, the throw's not made, maybe the completion's not there, the yards don't come, and then he will kind of circle back on that play in the execution of maybe something similar, maybe something different later on in the game. And that's when you've seen some of the, kind of second half forced throws where all we're attempting to do every single snap is treat each snap as its own, obviously acquiring experience and applying the techniques and fundamentals and the do your job mentality of what playing the quarterback position for the Minnesota Vikings is all about, and really any offense for that matter, but really trying to at times do a little bit too much based upon some things that he thinks are the right way to go about things, but it all circles back to those little details of it might not be the same exact look. It might not be worth predetermining throwing this ball down the middle on this look just because maybe Jalen Naylor was running down the middle open in the second quarter. Each thing in this league has a way of circling back, but you got to do it with the right principles and you got to do it the right way. And if you're ever forcing things or trying to force something to happen, many times it'll come back to get you. And I love when you say, not only with J.J. McCarthy, who's 22 years of age, but when you'll say at press conferences or here, I talked with the guy that Sunday night. I'm like, got my phone in my hand. Leah's like, the kids are running around and stuff. But it was important, at that moment especially when you're that young and that inexperienced, because as the absolute leader of this football team with what takes place specifically in the season, off season two, is when they leave. I mean, you got to kind of have it in the back of your mind. Like, how do they feel? How hard are they going to be on themselves? What are they looking at? What are they thinking about? It just never stops. And to whom much is given, much is expected. No doubt about it. And certainly not painting you as some kind of martyr or anything.
No, please don't.
But like on a Sunday night when you're like, I talked to JJ or whomever it was until 11 o'clock, that's all part of it, right?
Yeah, and there's 53 guys just like that.
Yeah.
It's obviously the 22-year-old quarterback, somebody that I'm going to be trying to, be there for as much as possible. He needs to feel my support. He needs to feel obviously the purpose of that coach to player relationship, but also it also fuels what takes place Monday through Saturday as we lead into another opportunity and the growth. And although right now there is and rightly so, there's a magnifying glass on him, our team, where we're at in our season, and as we get further and further away from that win in Detroit, or going back even further than that, the opener in Chicago, it starts to be a question of consistency and taking those next steps of elevating his own personal game for the greater good and purpose of our team. And he's right in the thick of that right now, and working through some things he's doing well. He's working through some things that we've got to continue to improve on, and that is the life of a young quarterback on this journey in the National Football League.
Well, as Kevin shared at his press conference yesterday, Max Brosmer, the undrafted rookie from Minnesota, he's going to get the first team reps until JJ is out of concussion protocol. We'll see how long that lasts during the course of the week. Our talk back for Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, I understand involves Max Brosmer, and here it is.
Good morning, 9 to noon, Coach. This is Vinny from Mounds View. Say if Max is the starter this week, how does his skill set differ from JJ's and even Carson's? And are you going to have to tweak the preparations at all to match his skill set? Thanks. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, bud. Good question.
Yeah, I don't know if you tweak the preparation as much as maybe some of the things that we know Max does well. And I think I heard the turn signal or the hazard lights in the background clicking there from our talkback question. But the details that matter.
Yeah.
BA.
Well, he pulled off to the side. He didn't. We always preach, don't talk back and drive.
It's very, very smart. And speaking of, you can carry over that analogy to playing quarterback. And what it's going to be for Max this week is keeping it laser focused like he's done throughout this season. And really, he's been a snap away now, going on 3, 4, 5 weeks or so. And his preparation's been fantastic. His questions, his dialogue. He is wise beyond his years. He obviously has some experience at a couple different schools in college, different offenses, different levels of play. And what really caught our eye in training camp is his ability to do things, at a pretty high level without getting a lot of time on task or reps to build into that. Watching JJ take reps, watching the other quarterbacks take reps, and when he got his opportunities, he always made the most of it. And what I've challenged Max to do throughout this week is, whether he ends up playing or not, let's have that same level of consistency. Let's envision not having to do anything more than go in there and execute each play as its own. What's my footwork and where are my completions? And what Max has shown is a twitchy, quick release with the ability to be pretty accurate, not only underneath but in the intermediate part of the field. And I think there's going to be some opportunities for who's ever playing quarterback in this game to just hunt completions all day long. Really good pass rush, athleticism. You're going to notice it up in the booth. You and Pete will. The speed at which their defense plays with. Mike McDonald's got them flying around. So we really need to be disciplined when we are throwing the ball, no matter what level of or phase of our offense that is. We have to be airtight with getting the ball out of our hands, throwing completions, and really getting Justin and Jordan and Speedy and obviously TJ, Aaron Jones, and the rest of the group involved in the game by getting the football in their hands. And how many times can we do that, stack those plays without the negatives that really doomed us in the second half the other day, and we didn't give ourselves any chance whatsoever, regardless of the fumbled punt, regardless of what took place on the other side of the ball. Yeah. And that's got to be the starting point against a good football team on the road.
Well, I mean, with Brosmer, I just, the recall is back to things you said in the offseason about processing quickly and just the voluminous amount of study, the scholarly nature to things, always walking around with a laptop looking at something or the Surface Pad, whatever you call it, looking at stuff. And that came to fruition. And I think it was the Tennessee game.
Yep.
Bursich and I were walking out with Max. He threw a touchdown back left of the end zone. Just asked about it, preseason, asked about the touchdown. It took him 30 seconds to explain well, something with cover 2 when it was actually man, and then you do this, and then you put the green dot here, and you push the red button, and it just kept going. And it's like it's like we looked at each other like, wow, holy cow! I mean, that's some pretty good dissecting right there. All right, Topeka, Kansas is telling me that we need to go. I got to get in one or two more. You mentioned getting to attack mode yesterday, and clearly that's been a calling card of yours since you arrived. What are some keys to returning to, as you would say, attack mode?
Well,
we'll make that the last one.
I think a lot of times, that mentality and that mode can be something where it can, you're trying to be a little bit more conservative. Maybe you're trying to run the football more. All you're doing in those situations is hopefully setting up opportunities to get a little bit more bang for your buck in the play action game, in some of the phases of our offense. And I thought we missed some opportunities in the game. There was a play where, Micah Parsons goes out of the game. We've kind of had something teed up, and it might have been early on in the game, and we end up bobbling the snap coming away from center and ended up on the turf for a -3 yard loss. But that play, when you're calling the game and you're operating as a team the way we are right now, trying to navigate your way to, at the very least, a stalemate in the turnover battle.
Yeah.
The very least, running the football for the sake of staying efficient for some of the third downs that have caused us problems when we get into those longer yardage D&Ds.
Okay.
And then when you don't make those plays, those are wasted opportunities that in many ways they're still happening. The defense is still having to go over and talk about some of those things, whether the play was made or not. And we just aren't making enough of those plays to complement the rest of the way we're trying to play as a football team. And as we continue to progress forward and we continue to learn more about this year's team, we're going to have to find those plays, because the best parts of our team in many ways are guys named Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson, and they have to have an impact on the football game to go along offensively with our ability to run the ball, our ability to control the football, the clock, and hopefully the time of possession and field position.
Oh, John, look over there. Is Jackson Smith and Jigba still strictly a slot guy? And
No,
he's not anymore. But he was like last year, right?
He is a fantastic player.
Okay.
I mean, really watching him and speaking to I remember a few weeks back when they played the Rams and leading into that game, I got a chance to talk to Sean McVay a little bit about their preparation, and it was going to be obviously a big game for them in the division, and he was just blown away by the player and what he's obviously grown and kind of continued to progress forward in his career early on here. But you're seeing an explosive guy that can win outside, win inside, run after catch, making some of the most dynamic catches in the league. And he's finding his ops, because one of Sam's great qualities is that intermediate to deeper passing game and really activating the intermediate to deep part of the field with his arm, and we saw it a year ago, and he's picked up right where he left off.
Have a good Thanksgiving, man. We'll see you out here for practice this week and Friday, all right?
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Appreciate you, Kevin. Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. That's X's and O's. Back after this. Gentlemen, 9 to noon is learned. Sam Darnold is quarterback for the Seattle Super Chickens. He has 10 interceptions, 5 fumbles. He's lost 4 of them. Amazingly, he has 14 giveaways for an 8-3 team. Maybe even more amazing, the Seattle Seahawks are -7 in the take give, and they're 8-3. That's just incredible. But their offense can be high powered with Kenneth Walker and Jackson Smith and Jigba, who the coach just talked about. Let's hear Brian Flores share a little bit of what it may be like going against Sammy D in this offense.
Most raucous stadiums, in our league. So, looking forward to it.
What have you seen about how they've been able to get JSN open and feed him so much volume? They're not like a huge passing volume offense per se, but and he's obviously the big target. And how do they do that?
Well, they do it a number of ways. I think it's schematically, he moves, is either Z or the X. Well, he moves. He's Z and the X, and he plays. They move him quite a bit, and let's just talk about him. He does a great job of getting himself open. Understanding the coverage, understanding leverage of the receivers, understanding where the soft spots are in the zones. Sam's obviously looking for him and knows that he's going to find an opening. If it's man coverage, he'll not necessarily beat the leverage, but Sam will put it in a spot where he can catch it. They've got Cup, and they just got Shaheed, who opens things up from a speed standpoint, and Shaheed taking the top off of it and just creating some space for him in the intermediate to short passing game, if you want to call that, but he's also a deep threat. So I think there's layers within the offense that allow him to be a short receiver. When I say that, I mean catch passes in the short range, the intermediate part of the field, and the deep part of the field. They've got other players who can, help him create, and I'm thinking about Shaheed, who, takes the top of the defense, and then creates voids in the intermediate and short part of the field. And they just do a really good job schematically. And then when you tie that in with the run game, it's, you bring a guy down in the run game, there's more space in the back end. So they do a lot of those things. They've got a good plan. It's obviously thoughtfully designed and constructed. And, he's done a great job. He really has. It'll be a great challenge for us.
How has Sam grown since he left here?
Sam's one of my favorites.
Hey, how long is the
great dialogue when he was here, and I thought he grew tremendously when he was here, for sure, just from a leadership standpoint. Obviously his play was what it was, Pro Bowl level last year, but his leadership, it's his routines. I'm sure he's still in the same routine, and I'd walk up there, he's in there eating breakfast, the other quarterbacks at, this time, they're meeting at this time, and he did a lot of great things when he's here, and clearly those things are continuing to show up for him out there in Seattle. He's doing a great job. He's throwing the ball well. He's leading the team. He's got command of the offense. He's getting them in and out of plays. And what I mean by that is just checking plays if they're in something that's not, the greatest look for them. And I think he's being who he is. He's being himself, and he's doing well.
What were the circumstances when you guys chatted? Was it just like bumping into doing warm-ups kind of thing, or more structured one-on-one talks that you had with
Sam?
Yeah.
Oh, here, just, in the cafeteria, locker room, training room, talking defense, talking offense. We had a great rapport, friendship, so I'm happy for him. But we will blitz him this week, that's for sure. We will, yeah.
Can your familiarity with him show up on game day at all, or does that present any advantages?
I think every year's different. I think, there's some things that, I think we could say may have bothered him a year ago, but maybe they don't this year. I think based on, having seen it several times, getting more reps at it, getting more familiarity with, a front or a coverage. So a year later, it's hard to know. But you try it out and see if, that still bothers him or that still bothers him. And, if it doesn't bother him anymore, you move on to something else. And if it does, you keep running it. And so, but it's not just Sam. He's got a lot of other people, to lean on. The run game, schematically, it's a little bit different. So, but it'll be fun. It'll be great to see him and compete against him. And again, they got a great team. So it'll be a great environment, and looking forward to it.
Ron, what have you noticed about Cashman's growth as the green dot in your defense?
Cash is, one of the leaders of the defense. as far as just my daily conversations with him and the things that, we're asking of him, and from a check ball system, or from a front standpoint, or from a leadership standpoint, he's been fantastic. He's growing in that role, that leadership role. He's obviously playing at a very good level. There's still plays there that, we're sitting there going, hey, you can make this one, and this one. And then, so there's still improvement there, but that's for every player.
That's B-Flow,
well.
coordinator coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings.
We're
going to pull out of it now and head to break. But for Brian Flores, you could tell when he was done with the Sam Darnold part of the conversation when he said, yeah, we're happy for him and we will be blitzing him. They moved on to different players.
I love that.
All right, we'll be right back. Shedeur Sanders, the ballyhooed rookie quarterback from Colorado. And I say ballyhooed because he's Shedeur Sanders. I mean, he's polarizing, whether he's I think it was Jackson State, where they did they did the Netflix bit, which was really, really good. Then Colorado and Boulder, a couple of years, took like 98 sacks, 96 sacks in 2 years, but still helped play a part with his father Dion and Travis Hunter and certainly some other good players to fill Folsom Stadium. I've told this story before, where when my daughter started at the University of Colorado, we went to a Colorado Buffaloes game, sat on the 40-yard line. Each ticket was like $15. It's like $30, man.
That's awesome.
The thing was 60% full. Then Dion rolls in, and I mean, those same tickets probably were $250 up to $375, and long lines to get in to watch those teams. And they've had a bad season this year, but they're still selling out, and the Dion factor is still really good. Shedeur had a lot to do with that. So Shedeur plays against the Raiders, has a pretty good game. And they win the game. Stefanski announces he'll be the quarterback in the next one. I can't remember who they're taking on.
Hosting the Niners.
They're hosting the Niners. Okay, so he gets a home game. But after the game, Shedeur said, I am what they have been waiting for. Okay, well, I love that. Because if I'm a Browns fan, I'm like, what? I'm excited for the next game all of a sudden, and I'm a Browns fan. But from a radio show standpoint, or maybe a columnist standpoint, what I love most about it establishes a line of delineation where I'm what they've been waiting for. So now we will see if he's what they've been waiting for, or if he was bloviating and he was just being like overly confident or cocky, some would say. I thought that was pretty cool, man. So I find myself pulling for Shedeur from afar. Thank you very much for listening to 9 to Noon today. For Eric Nordquist and Brett Blakemore, I'm Paul Allen. Thanks to everybody here at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center for the accommodations. Join us tomorrow. Chris Finch, coach of the Timberwolves, joins right out of the gate at 9. That's 9 to Noon. Coming up next, PJ Fleck on KFAN.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.